Welcome to the Happiness Podcast. I'm Dr. Robert Puff. Sometimes it can happen very early in our lives, and other times it happens later. But sooner or later, we're going to suffer. We're going to have things that happen to us that cause us pain. But I think these moments are incredibly critical because they're a turning point. They're a turning point between pain and ongoing suffering, and the other would be healing and getting better and finding joy in our lives again. It is a turning point because at these points, we get to make a choice. It's a choice between, do I want to heal this or do I want to numb it? And because in our world it's so easy to numb things, it's an easy choice, but often with devastating consequences. Because nowadays, in our world, it is so easy to numb ourselves from the pains of life. There are so many different things that we can turn to in order to take away our pain. Life sometimes can be so painful. We reach a point that we want to give up. We just want the pain to go away. And so we may turn to things to say, pain, stop. I just can't take this anymore. Stop hurting me. And we find things to numb that pain. And often, initially, that numbing is very relieving and really has not too many consequences to it yet. But then with time, we keep going back to it. And with time, that numbing becomes an addiction. Because that moment in life that began as pain, now because of the numbing, it causes our whole life to be painful. And we don't stop the numbing because if we do, then the pain seems overwhelming. That which we initially turned to numb our pain, we need more of because the pain, when we numbed it, didn't go away. And now there is so much more pain. And so we need more to numb it. And the people who numb, they aren't bad people that we need to look down on with disdain. They're people in pain, and they just want relief from that pain. And it's gotten so overwhelming that they just need that release momentarily from the pain that at this point often is permeating every aspect of their lives. Have you ever heard of the movie What's Eating Gilbert Grape? You may have never heard of it, but I bet you've heard of the two stars in it. It's Johnny Depp with Leo DiCaprio. It was filmed in 1993, so these two stars are much younger. It's an incredibly beautiful and moving story that I would highly recommend. Well, within the movie, there's a story. There's a story that slowly unfolds about Gilbert Grape's mother, who's played by Johnny Depp. And in this story, we see that his mother weighs over 500 pounds and isn't able to leave the house. She's referred to as Mama, and you'll fall in love with her as I did. She's such a beautiful soul. But slowly, as the movie unfolds, you get to know, how did Mama get to be over 500 pounds? And what was feeding her food addiction? And it was, of course, pain. Pain was feeding her food addiction because you discover that many years ago, when she had been beautiful, one day her very quiet husband, who did not share his feelings, hung himself in the basement. And after he died, the pain was so challenging for Mama that she turned towards food to numb from that pain. And because of her embarrassment over being so heavy, she would never leave the house. And the only thing that can get her to leave the house one time is her other son, played by Leo DiCaprio, who had severe learning disabilities, climbed a water tower and was arrested. And so Mama was willing to face her embarrassment of being overweight so that she could help her son get out of jail. But one of the reasons that I love this movie is that it's a beautiful story of a beautiful lady who struggles. I mean, could you imagine if you came home and had 4 children and your husband had committed suicide? The pain would be almost astronomical. And yet, we're here to get better. We're here to improve our lives. And that's why we have to be so careful with addictions. Because in the short term, they do work. It may be only for a moment. It may be only for a few minutes. It might even be an hour or 2. But that relief from the pain can be so satisfying that once we get it, that release from pain, sometimes we're willing to sacrifice anything to get it again and again and again. But the problem is, with any type of addiction, whether food, drugs, alcohol, sex, work, whatever it may be, when we turn towards them, they are short-term reliefs of pain. But in the long term, they don't heal our pain, and they actually add to our suffering. Because now, not only have we not healed our pain, now we have the issues that come along with our addiction. At the time of this recording, here in the USA, we're having a real problem with fentanyl. Fentanyl is a painkiller about 50 to 100 times more powerful than heroin, and it's cheap. And a lot of people, unfortunately, are being exposed to it, and it's killing so many people. And though this may be an extreme case, but painkillers are just that. They slowly eat away at us until we reach a point where now that which is to help us not feel the pain is causing us as much pain as we originally started with. When Mama found her husband in the basement, dead, and now she was forced to be a single mother of 4 young children. Food helped her get through that time, but it also caused her so much suffering in the end. And as I said, you'll fall in love with Mama. She is a beautiful soul. And I think love is a really good place to start. We turn towards addiction, towards painkillers, because we're in pain. That's why we turn towards them. It's not that everything's going wonderful and then we become addicted to things. It's usually more that we're suffering, and the suffering is so overwhelming, we just want it to stop. And these things, from video game playing, to food, to drugs, to alcohol, to even work, we turn towards these things so that they will help numb that pain, if only for a moment. So part of it that we want to start with, if we want to improve our lives, is we want to stop judging either our addictions or the addictions of others. The behavior is the problem. Each person, I believe, is in their deepest core beautiful. I know with some people, we have to look very deeply, but I believe that's true. And so what we can start doing is stop judging others and stop judging ourselves, and instead say, what's going on here? Why am I turning towards this painkiller? And what if instead I began healing and getting better and getting help with this thing that I'm turning towards to numb my pain? Because we can get help. We can get better. It's just understanding the process of suffering. Because when we're in pain, when a painful event comes, we want it to go away. And we have 2 choices. We can heal that pain, or we can numb it. And if we choose to numb it, the pain doesn't go away. It will just stay there. And often it gets infected. and it can turn to gangrene, and it can kill us. Emotions, though they work slowly, are similar in the sense when we have emotional pain, it does need to be healed. We need to implement tools that will improve our lives. And when we do that, we'll get better. But if we don't do that, if we numb that pain temporarily, then we're going to keep needing that thing that we're turning towards to numb. And so the process of healing, the process of having a beautiful life is by first saying, okay, is there pain in my life? Number one, are there things happening or have happened that are causing me pain right now? And if so, I need to see that I have two choices. The one is, I can numb this pain right now. The other is, I can begin to heal this pain and get better right now. It sounds so simple. Why wouldn't everyone just choose the healing path? Well, again, let's think of our bodies. If we get a really bad cut and we go to the emergency room, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to rinse that cut out real rigorously and intensely, and it's going to hurt without any painkillers. It's going to hurt a lot. And instead, if we ask them, well, don't clean it, just numb it, they could, but it wouldn't make us better. So that's why we turn towards painkillers, because they take away the pain right now, where the healing process actually hurts. I mean, if we can use Mama as an example, when she had to face the death of her husband, she had two choices. One was to feel that pain, which would be awful. It would be horrible. But with time, her heart would heal. Or she could eat. And the eating temporarily took away that pain. And she would feel a little bit better for a moment. And then, with time, what happens with painkillers is we need more and more of them. And they do work temporarily. But in the long run, they're really painful for us. But if you're listening to this talk right now, and you're struggling with life and the pains of life, and you've been turning to things to numb that pain, it's time to really stop the judgment and instead say, what do I need to do to get better? I know it's going to be a painful process, and I may need a lot of help to get through it. But what do I need to get better? And then we do the one thing that's magical. We take one breath at a time, one moment at a time, and work towards improving our lives. That's one of the keys of having a successful life, is not looking at and judging ourselves for all our failures, but instead saying, how can I make this moment, this day, a little bit better than yesterday? I know it's hard. I know it may be painful. But if I keep moving in the direction of making my life better, then I will get better. I don't know if you know this, but when someone struggles with a severe addiction like drugs or alcohol, often, in order for them to get really better and stop their addiction 100%, they have to go to a 12-step meeting every day for a year. And it works. They can get better when they really commit with that help. We can get better no matter what we're struggling with right now. But it does take work. It does take effort. And it's the understanding, the awareness that though it's going to be hard, if we don't change our behavior, it will be much harder in the long run. So we get help, we get support. There are many people out there, including me, who have spent their lives understanding how to make life work well. It is work, but with these tools, we really can have beautiful lives. The key is to just keep learning, keep developing these skills of happiness and being healthy. no matter what. We can be, when we develop these skills, we get really good at healing from the events that have happened in our lives. But the equally wonderful thing that happens is we get much better at handling the new events that happen. And for others, what may seem incredibly painful for us become not so bad. We get through things so much better when we learn the skills of how to live a happy life, no matter what. They are skills that we learn and develop, and we get really good at dealing with the ups and downs of life. This is the whole point of this podcast. How do we deal with the ups and downs of life so that our lives go well no matter what? But we have to remember, it is very tempting to turn towards things that numb our pain. And if we don't know what to do, then that's where we begin to listen to the over 300 podcasts that have been created prior to this one. There are many things we can do to have beautiful lives. It is skills that we have to learn. But when we learn these skills and stop trying to numb our pain, what we'll find is our lives begin to become more and more beautiful until we reach a point that we say, life is good. Thank you for joining me on the Happiness Podcast. Besides creating this podcast, there are a variety of other things that I do. If you'd like to keep abreast of these activities, and perhaps someday we may be able to meet in person, just go to www.happinesspodcast.org. That's happinesspodcast.org. You can subscribe to my newsletter, and if you do, you'll be emailed a free PDF copy of my meditation book called Reflections on Meditation. And until next time, accept what is, love what is. Do you ever wonder why some companies do so well, grow, and just seem to keep coming up with great ideas and keep expanding, while other companies are permeated with negativity, lawsuits, employee turnover, and just overall unhappiness in the workplace? Whichever corporate camp you find yourself in, or somewhere in between, the key to any company's ongoing success is to invest in and help their employees perform at their peak performance. There are very clear and specific things that people can do to perform well at work and in life in general. This is the focus of my podcast, and it's also the focus of my work. Being at the cutting edge of any market is sustained through investment in training employees how to perform well. But sustained growth and productivity requires specific psychological tools in order to continue to perform at peak levels. This is where I can help. I've been studying peak performance for over 30 years now, helping people all over the world. And there are very specific things that have to be maintained in order to sustain this level of performance. When companies invest in their employees are invested in them. Unfortunately, it's quite common for companies to be doing exceptionally well in the marketplace, but for unknown reasons, key employees make poor choices, leave the company, or start struggling in coping with stress-related illnesses. Companies that do well know their business really well, but human behavior works in mysterious ways unless you've been trained to understand the causes and cures of underperformance. If you're a forward-thinking company, perhaps it's time to think about giving your employees skills that may really help them perform well at work and throughout their lives. If you work for or manage a company, and you're ready to learn the skills in order to survive and thrive in any market, in any conditions, or in life in general, I'd love to help. These are the skills I've learned. These are the ones I'd love to bring to your company. True lasting success has to be seen from a broader perspective, not just monetary. And if you're ready to bring about these changes, that's where I can help. To learn more, go to www.successbeyondyourimaginationcom. That's successbeyondyourimaginationcom. And whether we're at the doorstep of retirement or have many years to go, may we always be growing, and be developing our skills not only as successful employees, but as successful human